Hello everybody, my name is Rolo and today we're reading more Reddit stories. So if that's your cup of tea, please do like and subscribe and let's get into today's story. Today's first story comes from the user Lawyer for Crazies with the title, I, 27 female, refused to give free legal advice to my friend, 27 female, and her boyfriend, 32 male. Friend's boyfriend went nuts. Just wanted some perspective on this. Throwaway for obvious reasons. Bit of background info. Julie is a good friend from school. We used to be close, but have drifted apart and don't see each other as much as we used to. John is her boyfriend. We used to be close, but he has been cold towards me recently. They have both opened up a business and I am a lawyer at a decent sized firm. A few days ago, I got a text from my good friend Julie out of the blue wanting to meet up. I was thrilled because Julie has bailed the last couple of times I have organized things. We meet up, but the whole time Julie keeps fishing for free legal advice about her business, which I politely refused. I refused for many reasons. She sought advice in an area of law I have minimal experience in. It goes against the conditions of my practicing license. What she wanted me to do would take up most of my limited free time, and in my jurisdiction, there are rules and lots of warnings about giving free legal advice to friends and family. It has the potential to ruin my career, a career which I have just began. I also don't want to mix my professional and personal life. The area of law I practice in is emotionally draining and intensive. I love it, but for the purposes of self-preservation, I want my spare time to be work-free. While I am more than happy to lend a sympathetic ear to friends, I find it a bit much to continuously put on my lawyer hat and provide solutions, opinions, and dish out free legal advice to everyone that asks. It's not a nice feeling to know you are being taken advantage of. I politely refused Julie and told her that I really wasn't comfortable to give away free legal advice, but if she wanted recommendations, I would gladly provide her with the list of capable lawyers. She said it was okay and we had a meaningful chat. It was really pleasant to be able to speak to her again. Last night, I was at a catch-up dinner with a couple of friends and our significant others. Julie and John happened to be there and were giving me the cold shoulder. I ignored it for most of the night, until we took our seats at the table. John started making all these snide remarks about lawyers, the usual stereotypes about lawyers. I laughed it off, as did everyone else. However, things took a turn for the worse, and his comments got oh so nasty and personal. He said horrible things like I must be sleeping my way to the top, that I must have connections to have gotten my job, that I am unethical or lack moral virtue like all lawyers, that I am greedy, and the icing on the cake? You must not be a good lawyer because you were unable to help us with our simple legal problem. I was pretty pissed off because who the fuck does something like this over a dinner? It was horrible, awkward, and just mean. I was mortified and didn't know what to say or do. I felt so small. I ended up excusing myself from the table to go cry. Come back, evidently looking like I'd been crying, and now John is pissed, saying that I can't take a joke or have no sense of humor. I wake up in the morning to being bombarded with text messages from John and Julie about how I am horrible, how I made them look bad, what? And how this would all have been avoided if I just helped them in the first place. I responded and said if I ever was going to help them, they've blown their chances based on how they have acted. John has lost the plot and has been sending me menacing messages and has threatened to ruin me. Reddit, how the hell do I handle this? Who the fuck does this guy think he is? I mean, he sat there calling you greedy, insulting all lawyers, but he was completely fine for you to give them free legal advice, be greedy and entitled himself. But no, he doesn't actually see it that way because, you're supposed to help them, you're friends, except they're not being friends, they're being cold towards you. Julie is just brushing you off and being flaky with you whenever you organize plans. And then organizes plans just to use you. These are not friends, and it's just time to cut them off and just Get them out your life. No friend would sit there and humiliate you in front of other friends at a table. They're saying that you made them look bad. No, their own actions and entitlement and shit talking and just patheticness made them look bad. I feel like this is going to work out in OP's favor, because who the fuck would want to be friends with pieces of shit like that, you know? Let's see what advice OP got from the comments, though. Here comes Curry says, I would wash my hands of these friends if I were you. You have every right in the world to refuse to have your free time infiltrated by those close to you digging for legal advice. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't most lawyers offer free consultations? Couldn't they have just as easily made a proper appointment with you during your office hours? Hold your ground. If they wanted to shed light on this whole thing to ruin you, they would end up humiliated, and you would receive a pat on the back from your employers for 1, being loyal to their firm, 2, being loyal and respectful to yourself. What you do is worth something, and people who come around only when they want something aren't worth gifting it to for free. If you are worried, I would bring the situation to a seasoned higher up at the firm. Sorry if I'm a little all over the place. I'm irritated for you and a little under the weather. OP responds, thanks so much for this. It made me feel a little better. What annoyed me the most is how they made me out to be this super selfish, greedy asshole that doesn't give a second thought about my friends. It's offensive because I am nothing like that and have done so much for them in the past. Hell, the only reason why John is living in my country is because I wrote an amazing stat deck about him and his relationship. What they want me to do is fucking time consuming, and as I said, out of my area of expertise. I don't want to finish my exhausting, draining day of solving other people's problems to be bogged down in researching and solving the problems of someone ungrateful. I guess most of all, I'm pissed off because I didn't think this would end a friendship. Normally, the relationship ends after you dish out free legal advice, not before. Amongst the living says, cut contact and block them. If they continue, report them for harassment. I am so sorry your friend is doing this to you, but this is ridiculous. If she was your friend, she wouldn't be doing this. She knows you can't give legal advice like that, which makes it so ironic that John called you unethical. Also, why the hell didn't anyone stand up for you at the supper? Jeez. To which OP says, I was a bit upset that no one stood up for me, but I think it was just because everyone was really shocked. John has always presented himself to be nice and the guy who everyone wants to be with. A deleted commenter says, just curious, did anyone else at that dinner mention what went down? I have a hard time believing any normal or healthy people wouldn't have said something. To which OP says, I said to someone else, they were all shocked. Julie and John are the golden couple that everyone looks up to. Julie has talked John up to the point where he is untouchable and the standard to judge everyone else's significant other to. I've got a whole heap of messages from my friends asking me how I am. It was just an awkward and embarrassing situation. No one knew how to handle it, myself included. And a final comment from Putch80. I am also a lawyer and have dealt with people I haven't had contact with in years, suddenly coming out of the woodwork and seeking free legal advice under the guise of rekindling a friendship. It sucks. It makes you feel used and like you had no worth to give them until you got a JD and took your oath. My honest advice? Fuck them both. Tell them you are interpreting these threats as harassment and blackmail, and any further threats will be met with legal action initiated by you against them. Tell them you do not give out free advice to anyone, let alone former friends. And tell them there are hundreds of other lawyers in the yellow pages who can help them with the simple legal problem. I assume, since you are a fairly young lawyer, that you have some kind of supervising attorney at your firm overseeing your work. Mention this situation to him or her. State that you don't think it will be an issue, but that you are just trying to be upfront in case it becomes one. I would be shocked if Julie and the boyfriend file a bar complaint, which would most certainly be summarily discarded by a bar association, but your firm should at least be aware of what's going on. I'd be happy to discuss this with you further. For reference, I am located in Oklahoma, so that is where the bulk of my experience dealing with the Bar Association and crazy clients has come into play. And on to OP's update, which came 17 days later. So first things first, thank you so much to everyone that responded. I'm surprised that my post gained the amount of attention that it did. I honestly can't express how grateful I am to all the PMs I got expressing concern. It's nice to know that there are some really awesome people out there that care enough to listen and help me in my time of need. In the original post, I expressed concern about John sending me really nasty messages. I know a lot of people were telling me that I should go to the police and make a report. In the end, I decided not to. Long story short, John is not a citizen of my country and is actually going to an interview in the next coming weeks along with Julie to cement his status as a permanent resident of my country. Part of this process is basically having a squeaky clean record and the full and frank disclosure of criminal activity or antisocial behavior. Since I am a character reference that I provided in a non-legal capacity and wrote a really nice letter for John, this was before all the drama, it wouldn't look good for him. I have no interest in ruining both his and Julie's life, no matter how terrible, rude, or mean they are. So I didn't want to make a report. However, I sent one text message to both John and Julie, which basically said that if he did not stop harassing me, then I would have no choice but to go to the police and file a formal report. I have kept copies of these text messages if I need to and have blocked the numbers and gone into a social media lockdown. In regards to my professional concerns, every Monday I have a standing appointment with my supervising solicitor to debrief about work and any problems that arise from work. As I mentioned in the original thread, I practice in family law and deal with a lot of at-risk and vulnerable kids, most of whom are victims of abuse. So the appointment goes beyond the realm of legal work. I discussed what happened with John and Julie and asked her for her professional opinion. She was actually shocked with the whole situation. I had to show her the text to prove it actually happened. She basically said that there is no way in the world that John and Julie could get me in trouble because I didn't do anything wrong. She also said that because she knows how hard I work and how many hours I put in at work, coupled with my non-distaste of corporate or commercial law, that she has no qualms in backing me up in the unlikely event that Julie and John did try to cause me professional drama. She also advised me to call the Bar Association to preempt any problems, but the Bar Association said that I did the right thing and that unless they have legitimate evidence that proves that I have given them any advice or have done anything wrong, then I'm in the clear. So it looks as though I'm all good on that front. A very good friend of mine that was at the dinner where John exploded has sort of been talking to Julie and John and letting me know what was going on. My friend Jane told me that John wanted to make a formal complaint or start something. She wasn't too sure of the exact details. But she shot him down and said that is no way appropriate, acceptable, or ethical, and that she, or our circle of friends, wouldn't want anything to do with either John or Julie. After this, Jane has told me that she wants nothing to do with either of them, and listed off the number of times I have been there for both of them and how stupid they are being. Jane also told me that the reason why no one intervened at the dinner party was because no one knew what to say. John has always presented himself as the nice guy and the perfect boyfriend. His behavior was completely left field and out of character, that people genuinely didn't know how to react. Julie has always spoken so highly about John and how perfect he is, how lucky she is to have him, and how we all need to find our John. It sort of brought to light a few things about him and their relationship. A few odd things that no one could put their finger on. No one's relationship is as perfect as John and Julie's. Long story short, it made a lot of people reconsider how they thought about them both. Someone in the original post pointed out that the outburst and insistence for help is probably symptomatic of a bigger problem. Whoever said that was correct. Around a year ago, both Julie and John bought into a business. I don't know the specific details, But at the time, John and Julie approached me and asked for some legal advice, which I declined. I was in my final semester of law school, and because they didn't want to pay for a lawyer to draw up contracts or look over things, at that time, John was really dismissive of paying for legal advice and said that he was more than capable of handling it himself. Turns out, he did a really terrible job. They are losing money, owe a lot of people money, angered a lot of people, and both he and Julie are generally being screwed over by a contract in place. This is what Jane has told me. I feel bad for them. I really do. But there's literally nothing I can do. Yeah, I am a lawyer. But as I have stated time and time again, it is not in an area of law I practice in. It's like asking a cardiologist to perform a lobotomy. My expertise is family law. While I have a rudimentary knowledge of business law or corporate law, the kind of advice they need is beyond the scope of anything I can help them with. After much thought though, even if I had the ability, I don't know if I would want to. The sense of entitlement that they have and the flagrant disrespect that they have both shown to me has really upset me. While John has been a monumental douche, what really stings the most is Julie. She was meant to be an old friend, and it just really fucking hurts. I mean, imagine trying over and over again to meet up with a friend, but they continuously bail on you. Then, out of the blue, they meet up with you. But instead of exchanging pleasantries, nope, I didn't even get a token how you going. A pile of papers get thrust in your hands, dozens of rapid fire questions about the law, demands to call people for them, requests to write carefully crafted letters in your name on your office stationery, contracts and documents to look over. Fuck that noise. I don't want to finish work only to be inundated with more work. I know that I have been used, but what's worse is the disrespect. The whole lawyer jokes that were barely disguised attacks on me. The thought process that, oh, she'll do a whole heap of work for us just because. How someone can even get into that mindset astonishes me. Julie hasn't bothered to speak to me, and I have no intention to speak to her. Jane has said that Julie doesn't really show any remorse, and while she understands my reluctance to not get involved, thinks that I should be doing more. Fuck her and fuck doing more. I've done so much for her and John. I've written statements to help his visa application. I have recommended customers to their store. I have helped them move from home to home. I have given them a list of lawyers to contact in regards to their situation. I've been there when Julie's grandfather passed away. More must mean doing what they want for them. It has been a hard, harsh lesson, but the friend I thought I had never really was a friend. And jumping straight into the comments, Married a Brit 73 says, from the distance of the internet, I suggest rescinding your recommendation letter. Although you did it as a part of your personal relationship, it carries more weight than a letter from a non-professional. The ethical and other promised and declarations you made upon becoming legal to practice give both your recommendation more weight, and to maintain those standards, you should honestly rescind a declaration you can no longer honestly make. Do you really want this guy, who's bizarre, stalkerish, and potentially abusive, assuming that is the funny feeling you're getting from their relationship, behavior scares you to become a legal citizen? He knows he's to behave good while on a visa. Can you imagine how he'll behave once he's legal? Actions have consequences. Don't protect him from his due consequences. Uppy replies, I wish I could, but unfortunately that time has passed. I wrote the letter over a year ago when I was not a practicing solicitor and still a law student. It is not linked to me professionally. It was done, as is stated on the letter, in the context of a friend who has known the couple for an extended period of time. It was essentially a letter that spoke in part about John's character, who at the time I thought was a standout guy, and the legitimacy of John and Julie's relationship, which I still think is legit. No legal jargon. I wouldn't even know how to go about rescinding the letter because, as far as I am aware, the part of the process that I was involved in has long passed. Half Past Tuna says, I think it's hilarious that he thinks he can formally complain about anything.
She didn't give us free legal advice.
So?
OP says, 90% of the work I do is free, so we attract a lot of crazies, regardless of the screening processes that are in place to weed out the crazies and frivolous complaints.
Jeez, like, I'm so glad that OP is choosing to move away from that relationship because that whole situation was just a huge mess. I wish the best for OP moving forward and hope that they never have to cross paths with John and Julie again. But what do you guys make of the situation? Let me know in the comments below. And thank you so much for reading along with me today. I hope that you have an amazing day, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!